So once you know what matters, once you know why it matters, once you know how it's being honored and what you want that to look like and what you want to do, tangible things you want to do in order to continue to lean into those values, then you can start to build that plan and prioritize. And this is really the core component. And it's going to look different for everybody, but you've now identified your values. So then you want from that to outline what you need, and you want to be very clear and in a defined order, ensuring that that intentionality is always aligning back to the values that you've identified. What are the wants? What are the needs? What are those non-negotiables? What are your goals too? Because as we go back to work, it's not just about what it looks like in terms of logistics. It's also about, okay, so, this past year and a half, I've not had any FaceTime with my boss, or maybe lots of FaceTime like this, but not a lot of in-person one-on-one. What does it look like once you're back at work? What do you want it to look like? What are your goals? What are your aspirations? Has that changed since the last time you were back in the office? And again, you don't have to technically be back in the office. It's any way that it's going to work. You just want to make sure you're really taking all these components together and thinking about how you can prioritize them. And the goals being probably the most important, because you want to align both those values with your goals and how you approach your work, as well as what you do to show up at work. And then you want to build the plan. So, okay, so now you know what you want and what you need, but what does that look like in practice? You can do this a few different ways. I'm a big fan of just writing down, but that's just my own. You can do it, any way that works for you, but you want to be very clear on what you need to make it work. So is it a conversation with your boss? Is it a conversation with your team? Is it a conversation with your family, with other people in your life? Like, what do you need, and what support, and what do you need to delegate in place in all areas? So all aspects of your life require delegation, whether that's how are you caring for kids or anyone that you have to care for at home? How are you covering that? Are you still managing it? And maybe you weren't managing it. Are you paying to have somebody do it? There's so many elements that you need to think about, and those are like real logistics. But then additionally, if you know your goals and you know how you want to structure your time, and whether or not you want flexibility or whatever those things are, you need to figure out what that plan is. You can't ask for something unless you know what it is. So now you've gone through the process of reflecting on what works, why it works, reflecting on what the perfect scenario would be, drafting that, thinking about that, coming to your values to ensure that you can be really authentic in that ask and be confident in the fact that these are the things that you want and why. And that's more just to build your own, kind of confidence around that. And then prioritizing and committing to those values to ensure that you're going to be able to commit to them and do things to prioritize them and build that into your life. And then building the plan to make this possible. And then the most core component would be communicating. So you've decided what you want to do. You've decided what your goals are. All of those elements, you then need to communicate, and you need to set the expectations. You need to communicate and manage up. This is where that article I thought was right in line with always. You have to basically share it far and wide, whatever you need from your support at home, whatever you need from your support at work, from your teammates. It's all about making sure that you can actually put this plan in place and get the head nods. I think in that article, Kim, there was something about having a plan B. I think plan B is good to have, but that number one plan is where you want to start, and you want to be really clear on what it is you need, want, and have to have in order to be successful at home and at work, because the two things are obviously so married together, as we've seen even more clearly over the past year and a half. Trying to think if there's anything else I want to make sure to add here, because again, it's such a personal experience. So really what I'm trying to do here is give you a process and some tools in order to think through how you would navigate this for yourself.